Very good. So with that, let's, as we look ahead here, not just for our programs, I want to make sure that you all are plugged in terms of the programs we'll be having here. On March, as I indicated earlier, right, we'll be having Tanya and Jennifer speak to us regarding WSU, the program, and the foundation. On April, we'll welcome Dr. Laura Kraft, who is our new WSU research professional here in Long Beach. And she wants to be talking about the research that she'll be doing, both for the cranberry industry as well as for the shellfish industry. But we'll also be here to probe on her past experience as a horticulturalist for Disney in Orlando. So it's going to be quite a series of programs coming up. With that, I want to make sure that we were all reminded, as Alina has spoken to us regarding these new program priorities and emphases that WSU is all about. And these indeed are, where all of our activities and emphasis in our public outreach needs to be played out with. And to that end, right, today's presentation is all about climate change and its impact in the food web and in the ag web. And with that, we are very, very gracious here to welcome Dr. Lumpkin, who's up at Mercer Island and who's here today to share with us, his perspective on a presentation regarding climate change and the implication that's going to have. So with that, Tom, I've stopped my share, so you can go ahead and pick up your share as we talked about it.
Yes. As we talked about it here, let me see if I can get there. Okay, why did it disappear off the screen? Yeah, it was there, and then it disappeared off the screen, the option to share. Let me see. Nope.
Can you go back down to screen share and see if that...
Let's see here, what's going on.
Go back to your share screen tab on the toolbar.
Yeah, that disappeared, unfortunately.
Cursor all the way down to the bottom of your screen. It'll pop up again. It auto hides.
Yeah, just a minute. Nope, I'm not. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened here. If I need to.
No, you're doing fine. If you go down to the bottom of your Zoom taskbar, if you move your cursor down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, the taskbar should appear, and share screen's right in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, it was there, and now it's disappeared. That's that. Should I log off and log back on?
Oh no, it's your you certainly have a taskbar, and if it's is it in your more? Do you have a more ...
Just
option?
No, I don't anymore. I did have one earlier, but I don't anymore.
Aaron has a suggestion in the chat that Alt plus S is a shortcut for share.
Alt plus F, okay.
S.
S.
S as in share.
Okay. Alt S. Yeah, it gave me a big selection up here: record, rehearse, hide, set up slideshow, custom slideshow, current slideshow from beginning.
There you go. So pick whatever window.
From beginning?
That'd be fine.
Do you have anything there now?
No. Again, when you hit Alt S, you should be able to see we need to pick the application. You need to pick your PowerPoint application, which is open on your computer.
Yeah, and Alt S doesn't get me anything anymore. I'm very sorry. This is
Because we just did this an hour ago.
yeah, I know, and it worked, but all that disappeared.
So you should have, again, at the bottom, your toolbar, there should be a toolbar. Can you see a toolbar that allows you, has audio controls to the left and an end meeting to the right? At the very bottom of your screen.
Yeah, no, that
The middle of that screen is there's a green tab that says share screen.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, disappeared. Perhaps let me log off and log back on again. Maybe that'll.
If it, yeah, if we can go a few more minutes, here if you want, or we can, if you want to share, if you want to send me the PowerPoint, I can put it up.
Okay. I will do it right now.
Very good. So it's I want to thank everyone for everyone's patience.
Yeah, it was all set to go until we did that.
Any other announcements that we want to share that anyone wants to share while we're vamping here?
Might as well.
Kelly,
Yes,
I
Valerie.
could do a little bit, I could do the schedule that I have so far
Please.
for Greater Grace Harbor. Our first workshop will be Sunday, February 26th at the dog barn in the fairgrounds. It will be winter seeds and milk jug seed sowing. Our second workshop this winter spring will be preparing the vegetable garden. That's March 19th at the dog barn. These are all 1 to 3 p.m. And our third workshop will be transplanting the seedlings and hardening off that we planted in the milk jugs, and those topics in general. April 16th, 1 to 3 in the afternoon at the dog barn. And I was also going to announce the plant clinic at the Mermaid Museum, April 1st. It's 1 to 5 in the afternoon. And anybody who is interested in plant clinics, show up and keep Scott and Lou company down there or over there or wherever you are. So far, that's all we have scheduled. So, and these items will be eventually in the events calendar and also in the volunteer section, the volunteer events section, so you can check out what's going on.
Yeah. Tom, we're actually seeing your screen here.
Yes, do you have the PowerPoint in front of you now?
No, we're watching you have we're watching a window of your browser window up. There's
Okay.
there's another window on your computer that obviously, if you can minimize this, this screen.
Yeah, okay, let me relaunch that.
Just go to your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I don't see PowerPoint open there on your screen.
Yeah, hang on.
There you go. Now you go.
Okay, are you ready to launch? Then
My slideshow.
yep. Just let me get this screen out of the way. Go.
You're there.
Got it? Do you have it now?
You're in the driver's seat.
Okay. So you've just got you just have my PowerPoint right now, I hope.
We have your PowerPoint slideshow.
Okay, so
Cool.
I'm sorry for my lack of proficiency on Zoom. I've only done it a few times, mostly of giving face-to-face presentations. But I have done Zoom at the Chinese Academy of Agriculture Sciences in Beijing, and also in Turkey and Uzbekistan and various other places. I want to open this, I've got these contrasting challenges to climate change. Greenhouse gas-driven warming, which you're all familiar of, but there are other remote, hopefully remote, impacts that could come from the opposite direction. We've got the war in Ukraine going on right now. Nuclear war could have a very opposite effect. And we are in a volcano zone, and there are small chances, but they have happened repeatedly through human history, of volcanic eruptions putting the earth into short climate change, nuclear or winter situations. Okay, well, let me, and please go ahead. Well, as Kelly mentioned, let's do questions and challenges during the presentation. So don't hesitate to stop me or ask or make a comment. I'd like to make this disclaimer. First of all, I'm not representing CEMET or WSU or anyone else. This is just a presentation I put together on my own from the literature, from the scientific literature primarily, and trying to, I feel have very strong feelings about that we're not responding maturely or adequately to the challenge that's ahead of us. And so I hope you're all familiar with this phrase. I apologize in advance. I want to apologize for my failure to push the topic more strongly while I was department chairman, while I was director general of 2 international institutes. I did do it, particularly at CEMET, but not adequately to address the extent of what is approaching. And we are approaching an era of food and environmental insecurity. Climate change is already having a dramatic impact on parts of Africa, even in the United States. It's happening now. Parts of the Midwest are likely to have reduced crop yields this year because of climate change. And I can't help but feel that there's a bit of neurosis. We're seeing a more unstable, apparently a more unstable world. And that issues around climate change, such as famine, migration, are producing some political extremism, paralysis, and possibly even will be an instigator of wars. The conditions right now are especially bad along the east coast of Africa. WSU has just been given, or not WSU, excuse me, CEMET has just been given a massive grant to engage that area. about $150 million, and trying to bring some options for people there in what they're growing that might survive, help them to survive. But this slide, please, I'm going to give you a moment. Well, to digest this slide. This is really where we're at, and it's something you probably have seen in some form before, but the boiling frog metaphor. The boiling frog theory states that if a frog is placed in boiling water, it will jump out. But if it is slowly heated, put in a pot of cold water and slowly heated, it will not perceive the danger and die. That's us. We are in it. We're hearing about it. We're talking about it. We're reading articles about it, but we're not reacting. We're still sitting there as the pot heats up. And here's a good part of why that's happening, or why it's heating up. This is a slide that goes back 8,000 years. Well, actually, it's a 10,000 year slide. And it shows the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere over 10,000 years. And you can see it went up from about 265 or so up to about 275, 50, 80 years ago. But what's happened since? Look at how the concentration in the atmosphere is just shooting straight up to, and now it is over 420 parts per million. This graph is pre-2020. And we are not, we're just not reacting to this with any of the urgency that is needed. Now, if we go back much further in the past to 800,000 years, and we look at carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we can see it going up and down. And these are from samples from ice and other ways that they've been able to sample back that far. And you can see all the way on the right what an anomaly we are in, where carbon dioxide has gone up and to pass 420 and is continuing to rise dramatically. This graph shows perhaps 100 different models that it illustrates how much if we respond, if we start really reacting and doing everything we can to reduce greenhouse gases, maybe we can create a graph of temperature rise that reflects the blue line on the bottom. And that's where you get 0.9 to 2.3 degrees centigrade increase, even with doing your very best. So that would be about 2 to 5 degrees or 4 degrees Fahrenheit. If we continue along the way we are going, and which has not really diverted much from this, we're going to see temperature rise going into the red up at the top there, which in Fahrenheit will be, 6 degrees to, nearly 10 degrees Fahrenheit increase by 2100 on average, with local variations much more dramatic. Some not so affected, other places dramatically affected. So climate change affects global cereal production. I'm an agronomist. I worked with wheat and corn scientists. So just give a quick sense of how that's going to be impacted. This is what we see with corn by 2100, what the impact will be. And the red color in the corn belt of the US, it's predicted that we're going to have a 40% reduction in production. Strangely, you can see some green there in southern Idaho, where there might actually be an increased productivity of corn there. But for most of the world, and particularly in Africa, where they're very dependent on corn as a major food stuff, North China Plain dramatically hit, north of India, particularly in Uttar Pradesh and Haryana and Punjab. Turkey looks a little more positive. Parts of the Alps look more positive, parts of the Andes, but overall it's going to be a dramatic fall in corn production by the end of this century. Likewise with rice. Now, what's really strange is that with wheat, it's predicted we're going to see increases in production. Wheat will benefit from climate change to the end of the century, particularly along the northern border of the US, Europe, and the area. But what's very frightening about this is that the northern border of wheat is going to be moving further north. And it's going to be moving into permafrost areas that are currently covered with, at the lower elevations, lower latitudes, covered with plant residue. They're insulated by some degree from the atmosphere. But as that land is opened up, plowed, a dark surface is created, we're going to get a lot of heat there. We're going to get accelerated warming of permafrost, and we'll have the dramatic decomposition and release of methane and carbon dioxide coming from those new wheat areas all along the high latitudes. So it's going to actually be beneficial for wheat production. Not in India, the wheat most productive and wheat exporting part of India, the Punjab, Rajasthan, Haryana are going to suffer dramatically. Mexico, the home of where the green revolution in wheat started with Dr. Norman Borlaug, and who got his launch by Dr. Vogel at Washington State University, who developed high-yielding dwarf wheats that could tolerate a lot of fertilizer to produce dramatically increased yields. Yeah, and that was taken by Dr. Borlaug and by his disciples like Rajaram to India, and now we're going to see quite a fall there besides in Mexico. I'm leaving next month to go to northern Mexico, to part of that red area where Simmet's main winter production area is located. And we'll be giving this presentation to hundreds of trainees who've come from all over the world to help them appreciate where we're going with wheat. Okay, wheat. So despite what our best efforts to develop varieties that will keep us ahead of the climate, the heating environment, we're still going to have problems. The wheat has to be adapted to this increasing temperature. But it's not just what's the effect on wheat yield? It's like what happened if we were put in an atmosphere of high oxygen. We're currently, I think it's around 21% oxygen in the atmosphere, what we're breathing. What if we were put in rooms where the atmosphere had 50% oxygen? Very easy for us to breathe. So, I mean, plants are breathing carbon dioxide. They can grow faster now because of they don't have to struggle so much to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And it helps them grow better. But there's a consequence, and part of that consequence is that the wheat will have less protein, less zinc, and less iron. It's going to be less nutritious. And we'll probably see this in other crops also. They'll be less nutritious with this higher carbon dioxide. It's like, feeding sugar to us or some other animal, or just starch with no other attributes. But now this comes home to you where you live. And I'm a bit shocked that our state, that the counties are not beginning to limit where people can build and how close to the ocean, particularly at low elevations, they can have homes. Why we haven't started already to forbid people from building, because Washington State is going to be hit hard. And so where will sea level rise? There's a question, that maybe it's only going to be, some people say maybe only 6 inches or a foot by the end of the century. But most models are predicting dramatically a much greater melt of the ice and a much greater increase in sea level. So the Intergovernmental Panel, the real authority, global authority on climate change, the IPCC, predict that by 2100 we would see 0.5 meter, or about a little less than 2 feet sea level rise in 2 centuries, or by 2100, but all together, with 410 million people losing their homes, primarily in Dhaka, Bangladesh, Lagos, Nigeria, places that are really Saigon, that are very low, they're just above and at sea level. But you have land like that also in your counties. But there's new research now that predicts sea level rise by about 0.5 meter by 2150. So nearly 2 feet just in the less than 30 years. And it won't be the same all around the world, but that'll be the average. And by 2 meters by 2100. So looking at nearly 7 feet by 2100. This is new research. And approximately 5 meters by 2150. So we'll be looking at more than 15 feet of sea level rise. And you probably can imagine homes right now. You can think of homes along the coast where you are that are not going to survive this, and you get a bit of a storm surge. Imagine what will happen. Uh-oh, slipped out. Just a moment. So where is all that water coming from? This is where it's snow and permafrost gives us just a teeny bit of sea level rise. Mountain glaciers a teeny bit. We've got a mountain glacier that's going to disappear, has just disappeared in Washington State, south of or near Chinook Pass, has completely disappeared, that I walked on when I was hiking in that area in high school. But most of it is going to come from the polar ice sheets, especially, and also the additional areas of Greenland and other parts of Antarctica. Now take a look at this map. I should have, I apologize for not putting in a map of Washington State, but take a look at this map and notice what's missing. This is what we could see. Notice that Florida is gone. We have massive migration to Florida. I mean, Florida has some of the fastest growth rate right now. But this is probably what we're going to see by 2100 or going into 2150. Look at the Amazon basin in South America. You have the ocean coming in and filling up part of the Amazon basin. Do you know where Bangladesh is? Do you know how to find India? Bangladesh is gone. It's hundreds of millions of Muslims will try to flee those floods into Hindu India and will probably be shot trying to cross the border. There'll be enough panic already in the state of Bengal, which is right beside Bangladesh. Parts of Rajasthan, Bombay will be gone. All around Italy and even London will be flooded. So and Washington State, I apologize again, will be impacted. So right now you have record home prices in your counties. Record people wanting to come in will pay the price to live there. But at some point, and perhaps it'll be after a winter storm, a surge that comes in, that you're going to see that disappear, that preference, that desire for property right along the coast at very low altitudes. You're going to see panic. That's coming in our near future. Once we get an extreme event that gives you a sense of a stronger sense of what is coming. Now let me jump out of that and give you some scenarios that could be quite the opposite, which are low probability, but just to help illustrate that climate change is not something unique to this era. It's happened repeatedly, and it could happen immediately if the war in Ukraine gets out of hand. Volcanic eruptions have caused dramatic climate change in the past. Krakatoa, for example, in the 1800s, had an impact for about 3 years, creating small nuclear or winter effects. But the biggest one caused by volcanoes was back around 536 to 540, where we had 2 volcanoes explode and brought the downfall, the end of the Roman Empire, helped the bubonic plague get going. So in Iceland in 536, there was a massive explosion. it cooled the summer down by about 3 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in around 540 to 541, there was another volcano, which they're not exactly sure where it is. Perhaps it's sunk under the ocean, that really just tipped the scale and caused that collapse of the Roman Empire and just winter crop failures all around the world. And what about nuclear war? The size of the mushroom clouds, you can look on to the left, you can see Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The size of the cloud, how far up in the air it went, about 30,000 feet with those bombs. But the bombs that the Russians have, they probably wouldn't use too many of them. The two on the right, the Tsar Bomba, which was exploded in the 50s by the Russians in a test, takes the atmosphere, takes the dust way more than 60,000 feet into the atmosphere, where it will stay there for considerable time, going around the Earth and shading the Earth. The biggest US bombs, like the B-83, is much less dramatic, but the Castle Bravo test, did. But we don't really use bombs like that or have them in the arsenal. They're using much more targeted, smaller ones. But if we did have, well, let me first go. The US and Russia used to have 40,000 atomic bombs. The US used to have about 30,000. Then we had the START Treaty, and those numbers were brought down to around 4,000 to 5,000 each a few years ago. But meanwhile, there's a bottom line down there that shows China, France, UK all combined. But right now, China has a massive bomb building program to equal the US or Russia in number of bombs. So soon they will be comparable of having thousands of nuclear weapons. Now, if the US and Russia got in a nuclear war, probably 2,000 nuclear weapons would be going in each direction. And each country, all major areas of high population and areas in Montana, for example, in Wyoming, where there are many nuclear weapons, rockets placed would also be hit. And what would be expected, it's been calculated that about 150 million tons of soot would go into the stratosphere. And it would also destroy 90% of the ozone layer. So not only would we have dramatic cooling, but it wouldn't, just a very short period out with exposed skin outside, you would have severe burning with destruction of the ozone layer. This shows what would happen if India and Pakistan, you look on the upper left of both these graphs, the effect on precipitation, the effect on temperature. Precipitation, if just India and Pakistan fought a nuclear war with about 100 warheads each, you would get about a 10% drop of precipitation globally and about a 2 degrees centigrade or 5 degrees Fahrenheit drop in temperature for a few years. If US and Russia got in a nuclear war, you would see a 50% drop in precipitation globally, and you would see the temperature go down by 10 degrees centigrade or 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And this would last for 3 or 4 years, which that's enough time to, just cause massive famines and loss of plant life. And what happens is you lose a lot of your plant life, you lose a lot of living beings. And once it starts to warm up, you start going into nuclear summer. And all that dead plant material and life, animal life, rots and releases carbon dioxide and methane and feeds a nuclear summer that follows after 3 or 4 years. So it's not, you have both nuclear winter followed by nuclear summer. So this is after the soot, after the winter caused by the soot. We get this greenhouse effect and the production of methane and carbon dioxide coming out after several years. There's been talk of geoengineering. You see articles about this. Bill Gates has talked about it. Bill Gates has enough money to geoengineer, with sulfur dioxide being sprayed in the stratosphere by a few airplanes, could bring the global temperature back to about what it was, could get ahead of climate change. And there's also, and Congress has recently approved some tests on this. So we're going to see some test releases. I think even some private individuals are going to do this, looking at sulfur dioxide to be sprayed in the stratosphere and cool the climate. Okay, so to acknowledge the seriousness and accelerating threats to food security, biodiversity, and civilization, every institute that I present to, I suggest to that institute, including the College of Agriculture at WSU, should there be a special group developed, including, bringing master gardeners into this, to think about climate change. Is it really a major dereliction of duty that county officials along the coast, that the state government are not warning people that by 2050, this is going to happen, 2100, the decisions that people are making, investments that they're expecting will be there, to pass on to their children or grandchildren. That's not going to happen in some cases at low altitudes. I think it's really shocking that we don't have to do it in a Chicken Little running around with our head cut off behavior, but we need to maturely start raising consciousness of the public of where the impacts will happen, and that people need to have that information to make rational decisions about purchasing property at 2 feet above sea level along the Washington coast or near the ocean. And normally I'm presenting to scientists, and I think nearly every scientist should, from their technical perspective, give some thought about, can they contribute to addressing this existential threat? I like to show, this is Dr. Norman Borlaug, who won the World Peace Prize, who started the Green Revolution in wheat, who got his first semi-dwarf wheats from Dr. Vogel at WSU Pullman, and who continued close ties. He brought a dramatic revolution in wheat production. We need to be creating new wheat varieties that can really boost production, because as you saw in one of my graphs, corn production is going to dramatically fall, as is rice. We need wheat to make up the gap, the food deficiency caused by the loss of those crops. We need wheat varieties, and we need to try to breed some of that rice and corn to be more, have a better chance of surviving climate change. And, I feel very strongly about this subject, partially because I have grandchildren. This is my newest grandchild, born a year ago, a little over a year ago. She's going to be my age by 2100. She's going to have to live with the world that you and I have created, the climate change that is happening and will really be affecting things when she's, my age especially. She's going to suffer dramatic consequences for our failure, our generation's failure to recognize what we're doing to the atmosphere and make adjustments to reduce its impact. Thank you for your patience. I hope you don't think I'm too crazy or a raving lunatic here, but these things are real. And we just can't keep ignoring it. We have to start changing our lives now, changing what we do. And having this Zoom meeting is, it's very good that we didn't all hop in cars and leave a stream of carbon dioxide to meet up in some place like Olympia, but maybe we do need to do that sometime. Add some carbon dioxide to speak to some legislators or others about beginning to raise the consciousness, especially for people who are going to be the first hit in this state by the flooding that's going to be happening. So I'll shut up at this point. I'd be very happy to.
No, we have a few questions that are coming in
comments and
here.
criticism.
Yeah, a few questions are coming in that in the chat, by the way, I posted a couple of links to some comments regarding what ecology, the State Department of Ecology is saying about climate change, and even in today, as well as at a website that Harvard has regarding geoengineering and the impacts on climate change. Chris, you ask a question here, is that what about the quantity of carbon dioxide from regular air traffic and the likely increase of regular air traffic? Is there any comments, Tom, that relative to air traffic and CO2 from air traffic and its impact?
Well, it's important. And unfortunately, so far we haven't seen very good alternatives being developed or being envisioned that can give us hope of moving away from fossil fuels in the near future with air travel. Perhaps we can develop hydrogen-powered planes in the future and produce hydrogen, without using fossil fuels, using solar, using electric sources that don't pollute. But air travel, I think at this point, doesn't have any good solutions that can be implemented in the near future. We do have lithium batteries, but those are way too heavy for airplanes. And one even has to wonder if the electric cars that we're driving these days are really the answer, because there's so much fossil fuel being consumed to mine that lithium, refine it, and manufacture the batteries, that's a huge price to pay. It's almost better to drive your existing car another 100,000 miles than to switch over to an electric car that has such a fossil fuel bill in its creation.
What other questions do we have for Tom? This is obviously, as we opened with this morning, we knew this was not going to be puppies and kittens today. So I appreciate that it's a very candid message, but it does speak to the fact that this is an emphasis topic that WSU Extension wants us to be thinking about as master gardeners. Questions for Tom?
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about methane gas, but what point does when the methane gas is starting to explode in the Arctic of Siberia and Alaska and Canada, going up in both tundra and fossil, that's what I'm trying to say. Fossil methane is coming up out and exploding. And is that the point of no return, or when will be the point of no return?
It certainly seems that, yeah, that is something that is well underway and is having a huge effect, and I have not seen any reasonable solutions to getting that under control. Those massive sinkholes that are developing in Siberia and parts of Canada, but mostly in Siberia, with methane being released. And then, as I said, wheat production is going to be moving north and really speeding up that process even much more. I mean, and so this, you could only say that this should be a major stimulus for geoengineering, that what's underway with methane release at high latitudes, should help us wake up to the fact that we've got to begin reversing this temperature increase now.
Kathleen raises a question regarding that electric power and the percentage of electric power being generated by coal and gas today versus wind and other sources. I think wind and other climate-friendly sources, right, it's a really tiny percentage, right, of current electric power being generated today.
Oh, it's really increasing dramatically. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's becoming it's beginning to have a dramatic contribution, and not just in the United States. It's a positive thing, but one of the problems with it is that it's not a stable, reliable source of electricity. The wind blows, the turbines turn. The wind doesn't blow, they don't turn. So we need to develop storage mechanisms. There's even a proposal to develop one of those down where my vineyard is in Klickitat County, to pump water up a hill there right beside the Columbia River into a big storage reservoir when there's surplus electricity from the dams, from the turbines, and then when the wind dies off, you start draining that reservoir from the top of the mountain to run generators. So we need more of that kind of development of off-peak storage of surplus electricity.
A study done in England about reservoirs behind dams say that organic matter going into the reservoirs feed at the bottom of the water column where it's anaerobic, and creates methane gas.
Uh,
And they say literally tons and tons of methane gas are produced monthly, you know, behind dams. And we still have all those dams on the Columbia River and the Snake and other rivers in this state. And my PUD says we're carbon free. We don't use any equipment that are natural gas. Well, we do. We got
Well,
all
I
those
mean, I
dams.
would hope that here in the Pacific Northwest, where we live in a Mediterranean type climate, that there wouldn't be as much organic material getting into the reservoirs as there would be in a summer rainfall pattern like the East Coast or Northern Europe. But yeah, that might be an issue.
Other questions for Tom? Tom, and overall, I mean, are you hopeful that technology as well as behavioral change and that new approaches can reverse or at least forestall some of these the worst case scenarios, the bleak scenarios that you presented us with? I mean, it is Valentine's Day after all.
I know how even myself, you know, how I say one thing and do something else. How duplicitous I am in my own behavior. How I'm preaching to you how bad things are, how bad things will be for my grandchildren, my children. But I get on a plane every now and then. I've really, tried to cut back. I get in my Subaru and drive down the road. You know, I just put in a heat pump into my house so I don't have to use the gas furnace anymore. I'm trying to make some changes where, you know, it's that are cost effective. But no, there's just too much of this that our bleeding hearts about, you know, oh, I wish this wasn't happening. And then we turn around and contribute to the problem in the next breath. We have to stop. We're not even really doing near enough. And we're going to have a lot of electric cars coming. We don't have the electrical infrastructure to recharge those cars in place, but just the building, there's going to be so much fossil fuel used in the building of those cars, those electric cars, that it's just going to continue on. Yeah, and I think, what is it? You have to get like 30 or 40,000 miles on an electric car before you begin to see any benefit from having an electric car.
So there's some clear messages here, is that there's some nuances in terms of there's no quick fix. There's no binary. This is good, this is bad. You know, some of these issues are indeed complex. And I appreciate, however, that that part of your mission is just to get us talking about it and acting on it, right? So that we're not
Yes.
we're not kicking that can down the road, so that your granddaughter, right, you know, is going to would have to wrestle with it. It's time for us to be thinking about and acting today.
And time, you know, are the people that are buying those houses on the beach at sea level in your counties, are they thinking about the future at all? Or are they thinking, well, I'm going to be dead, maybe I don't have any children, if it washes away, doesn't matter. But some of them are probably thinking, this is a legacy I want to pass on to my children, my grandchildren. And they're just in denial or just uninformed, you know, about what the future. I mean, it's a juggernaut that's already rolling down the hill and
And to
coming
that-
at us, and it's.
And to that point, I'm chair of the Pacific County Planning Commission, Tom. And we actually received a grant from the Department of Ecology to study sea level rise and what it needs to mean from our planning perspectives.
That's
And
great.
so here in this county, there is an active program underway. And we've actually had 2 public workshops just last week, and this will be unfolding as it comes into the spring here. on the implications of what it means, not just from building and where folks can build, but also water table, right? Because here in the peninsula, here in the Long Beach Peninsula, right, there's no
Right.
water that flows into the peninsula. We depend upon a freshwater lens. That is imperative that the freshwater lens stay above the saltwater in order for us to be able to exist here. So a lot of complexity going into it, but I wanted to assure you, Tom, at least here in Pacific County, we're taking that your messages seriously.
Good. It's, also, remember, we're going to have mass migrations from lower, latitudes. And I mean, Florida is going to have to clear out. Half of Texas is going to have to clear out. And also heat, escaping from heat from Arizona. They're going to be heading north. They're going to be wanting to buy property up here. Will we be ready to sell? Will there be space for them, or will they come faster than we can adjust? I think, we need to be ready for that. And that's why I put that word panic in there. I mean, right now, there's no panic, but there's going to be some event that will trigger things, that will trigger, a panic among the population. And we need to start thinking about anticipate that happening. And what are we going to do to prepare for it?
Any other questions or comments for Tom?
Great Aberdeen right now has gotten putting in sheet piling.
Well, you went on mute there, John. Oh, we lost John.
There I go.
Oh, we lost you again, John.
All right, it's gone. You hear me?
We hear you now.
Yeah, Aberdeen has got a grant to put sheet piling all around this streams going through the ground along the lower part of the city. Actually, the city itself is on a mud flats, and they filled those mud flats so they could build houses on them. And this was all done back in the 1920s and 30s. And so I can hear the pile drivers going right now out. They're putting in a sheet piling along a creek that comes off the hills here and goes into the Grace Harbor.
Yep.
And
it would seem like it would be good to identify, areas where housing projects could be built at a higher altitude nearby that are on, stable soil conditions. My grandfather used to move houses. I spent some time with him while he was moving houses up and down the San Fernando Valley in California. And, the wood frame houses that you have, probably some of those could be moved. Of course, the brick and concrete, that's not going to happen, but at least the wood frame, there might be, some hope, but it would be good to begin identifying new areas where those houses could be moved to.
well, my wife, when we were looking for a house, didn't want to buy anything under 50 feet. So we're at 250 feet above sea level.
Well, that's wise. Yeah.
John, we're moving in with you, John. That's the plan. Hey, I
And
want
you
to
can
thank
weed my garden for me.
I want to thank everybody for joining in. It's been we have a challenging day for both Zoom and for internet, right? But I think that's the climate in which we live in. I'll be recording. This is all being recorded, of course, and we'll have this posted up on our YouTube channel here later this afternoon. Reminder that tonight, this evening, is our board meeting at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. I've pushed out the proposed board agenda for that meeting to the board. Everyone is welcome to join. Everyone's welcome to join. And so as I indicated earlier in the presentation, the tiny URL /PNWMG-board will be the Zoom link. Thank everyone for participating. I put a link in here, by the way, reminding everybody that there's noontime forestry workshops that are continuing this week from WSU Forestry. The focus this week is on root diseases, and that picks up at noon. And you can find that link either in the chat or at WSU Forestry. Thanks, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day to you and to
Kelly,
your
I wanted to
special
make one-
Valentine. Go ahead.
Kelly,
Rob.
I wanted to make one quick comment, encouraging people to come to the, now that I'm trying to talk fast, I can't think of words, the study group on Monday, because we are talking about one of Dr. Ptolemy's plan or suggestions for how to help impact climate change by all of us becoming way more native plants, etc. So it feeds into what we've heard today. I just want to encourage people to sign on in, even if you haven't read the book, you'll get interesting information.
Garnett's a great recommendation. Reminder that in the e-news, right, there's a focus that this coming Monday's study group is going to focus on Ptolemy's book. And it's a phenomenal, impressive book, by the way. And I encourage everyone to either check it out at your library, make sure it's a part of your personal library. It does speak very directly to some of the messages we've heard today about what we can do as individuals, right, to step up. Any other comments, any other questions? We'll close it off then. Thank
you,
everyone for
everyone.
patience. Okay. Stay safe. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll see you all at the board meeting later this evening.
Have a great afternoon, all of you. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Tom. Hugely valued and highly appreciated. Thank you so very much.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.